welcome to the channel. And autumn is here. You can tell in the background we're starting to see the leaves starting to change. And at this time of year, many people's wives send their husbands out to do a little bit of maintenance in the garden, and in particular they like them to start having a go at pruning some of the trees to make them more tidy. Well, before you do that, look, there's a few trees that you really don't want to be touching in the autumn because it can cause you all sorts of problems with regards to ornamental value, flowering, pests and disease. So I'll tell you what they are. Not too many of them. We'll get through them and you'll know exactly what to touch, what not to touch, because God forbid you touch the wrong one, because your life won't be worth living come the spring when your wife's expecting all the blooms to come out. Let's get on with it. Just need to find somewhere a little bit more comfortable to sit. That's better. Right, your first tree, well, it's not just one tree, it's a whole group of trees. It is your cherries, and I don't just mean the fruiting top fruit cherry trees, which is one of God's great gifts. I also mean all the ornamental cherries, all your prunus, all your Japanese cherries, all of those. And it's not even just those, it's also related plants in the same family, such as your plums, your apricots, your nectarines. These are all at risk. Right, this is the thing. All these plants are susceptible to being infected by by two rather nasty diseases. One is called silverleaf, one is called canker, and we'll go into details about those two in a little bit. The problem with them is that these trees are really susceptible to infection to these diseases through fresh cuts, and they're at their most infectious, or most mobile, I suppose is the right word, during damp, wet, humid conditions. So the time to cut these is only during periods of the year where the weather is at its driest. It's your only way of avoiding these infections, and even then you might get a bit of a risky one if you've got infected plants nearby. So you never cut in the autumn. The risk is way too high. You can always guarantee you're going to get an infection, any fresh wounds. I think just don't do it. Just do not touch it. Do not cut any of these plants I've just mentioned in the autumn. You're putting all your plants at risk, and there are no known treatments. You cannot go down the garden centre and buy a bactericide or a fungicide that's actually going to touch these two diseases. It's not going to happen. So always never cut cherries, fruiting cherries, ornamental cherries, plums, apricots, nectarines, none of those in the autumn. Only cut those during the summer, not during like a heat wave when it's super hot, because then you can stress the plants out. But when conditions are fairly warm, extremely dry, it's the only time. Never cut in the autumn. Right, a little bit about these two diseases. Come on. Okay, the first one is silverleaf. It is a fungus. The fungal spores are released at the end of the summer, so perfect time if you want to get an infection when you start cutting in the autumn. They are airborne and they enter the tree through open wounds, so again, don't cut them. It will get into the tree and it'll start to travel up through the tree, and it will go up one stem, up another stem, can go down, and then as the fungus inside the plant starts to mature, you get these big bracket fungus starting to appear near ground level. What can you do about it? All you can do is try and trace the infection back and then cut maybe a couple of feet further down, and hopefully that will prevent the spread of the fungus. But really, I think you're going to fail. I've never seen anyone do that successfully, and eventually your plant is going to die. So if you don't want dead trees, don't want silverleaf, don't cut it in the autumn. Right, next one is bacterial canker, which is spread by splashing rain. It's spread by wind currents, it's spread by birds, insects, and even people, and particularly infected blades. You've been cutting a plant that already has it, and then you go and cut another plant that will be particularly affected by it, that does not have it, right until you touched it. The signs of it are typical kind of sunken areas of bark within the branch work, and also you get this oozing, horrible oozing sap that comes out, and that's really obvious. It looks like it's got some sort of disease, but all it's got disease, it's all bleeding away. Again, you cannot treat for it. all you can do is try and trace back the infection and cut below it, hopefully removing the whole thing, but really don't do it. In time you've got it, it's going to die. So your next lot of trees are your early flowering magnolias, and that will be your Soulangiana, that will be your Soulangiana hybrids, and it will be your Stellatas. So any early flowering magnolia you don't want to be cutting in the autumn, and the reason for that is this. In the spring, when they're flowering, as soon as they finish flowering, they start to put out new growth. Once they've finished putting all that energy into the flower, they go on to growth again, and you'll get the new growth coming through, and on that new growth will also be your new buds, and those are the new flower buds that will have to wait about 9-10 months all through winter and the other side to the spring before they flower. So if you start taking your blades out, start cutting any material off your spring flowering magnolias during this autumn period, then you're going to be taking off those blooms. So come the spring, you're not going to have any flowers on it. So some of these varieties are very fancy, very special, very expensive, and if your wife told you to go out and cut it, she's gonna flipping do you in come the spring when it's got no flowers on it, and it'll all be your fault because you didn't do your research. So there you go, spring flowering magnolias. The next tree is all of your lilacs, and it's for the very same reason. They start to produce the bud immediately after flowering. You cut it in the autumn, you're going to take off all that bud material for the spring, so no flowers. So you get a 2-for-1 there. Magnolias, syringa, which are all your lilacs. You never ever prune them in the autumn because you'll lose the flowers, unless of course you're not worried about the flowers and you're cutting it for other reasons, and actually it'll be absolutely fine. Right, now we're down to the last bit. Come on then. So this last group of trees are your maples. I'm going to split them into two and talk about them separately. You have your North American maples, you have your European maples, you've got your Japanese maples. They're all come under the genus Acer, and they're all under nursery production, so you can buy them all, and they're all quite lovely, quite good. But the problem with the predominantly the North American maples is that unless they're properly dormant, you shouldn't be cutting them, and cutting them in the autumn is a no-no, because if you cut then you can get some heavy weeping of the sap, and if you get that happening, then that can weaken the plant. You can open it to a disease. You can have a poorer plant come the spring. So you don't cut these maples in the autumn. You have to wait till they're properly dormant, to wait till the possibly in midwinter, where you know that the sap has been brought back down, drops all its leaves, you can cut it, and then you won't get the sap being produced. So that's the first one. The second issue is with these Japanese maples. Now, Japanese maples have been under cultivation and hybridization for at least 1,000 years in Japan. And because of that, the genetics are very, very mixed. There's no way you can tell the parentage of these plants. But what this also means is that there's a huge range of sizes, shapes, leaf colors, leaf shapes, and habits. And it's absolutely amazing. The trouble is, in the UK, we tend to be very familiar with those sort of like fairly short, sort of like heavily kind of weeping ones, and they're absolutely beautiful, incredibly elegant. But if you go to the shops and just buy an Japanese Acer and expect it to be weeping and it isn't, and you think, oh well, it must be weeping because people are cutting that sort of dome shape into it. Well, no, that's not it. If you start cutting Japanese Aces, you're going to get invigorated growth at the end of the tips, and you'll get like a load of stems coming out, and you have like these like brushes on stems coming out of it, and you completely ruin what would have been a naturally elegant shape which you produce by itself without any help from you, and you start cutting it, and then you're going to have to cut it year and year and year just to create that shape. And be honest with you, it's never going to look natural. It's always going to look horrible. In my opinion, you might think it looks nice. So don't do it. Don't cut those maples, leave them. Of course, if you've got dying tips, they can be taken off. If you've got weird stem coming up, again, you can take that off. But if you want to start changing the shape, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. So there we are. Those are all the trees. However, this is not an exhaustive list. I'm sure there are other trees out there that you should not be cutting in the autumn, and if you'd like to add those in the comments, we'd love to hear from you. let's get this thing done. And there you have it. That is my list of trees that you should never be cutting come the autumn. Anyway, it's the end of the video. What I need to do now is press the play button on my favourite piece of ending music. And before I go, there's just one last thing to say, and that is this. We have a message from me from the past. If you've seen it before and you don't want to watch it again, just do it anyway, because it supports the channel. So, goodbye. Right, now, just before you go, if you want to see more content, more behind the scenes stuff, and images that I've taken of some weird freaky plants over the years, then you're in luck, because we've created an Instagram page. So you can find the link in our description, you can find the link on our main page, and if I'm clever enough I might be able to get a link somewhere up there. Anyway, thank you for watching, and if you want to see more YouTube stuff, then check out this video here. That's quite a good one. And if it doesn't float your boat, then another one right there. And enjoy these while I've still got the strength, imagination and aptitude to make them. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.